Luna Anna here, and this is my third video in my series Healing the Patriarchy with Love. Sorry if you can't hear my throat, it's still a bit sore. So this is part 3 of Healing the Patriarchy with Love, and it's entitled Following Your Heart. And I meant to do this, I'm meaning to do these, intending to do these videos so that they're out every Sunday on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Luna Louise Anna. But I got COVID, and so when the last one was due out, which was absolutely ages ago, so I apologise, I got really sick with COVID. It's my third time having it, but this time was, it was a really rough ride on the COVID rodeo. But I'm back and I'm feeling my energy field feels, hi, I've just got one of my little cats here, Pepper. My energy field feels much clearer. My cells feel clearer. A little bit like they've been put in an industrial washing machine whilst being squeezed by a vice, but they are clearer. So, sorry if you can hear that. That's just, like I say, my cat Pepper. She really likes the videos, so she's just come to have a little join in. Yes, so where we'd got up to is part 1 was what is patriarchy, and I talked about it in terms of being, it's many things, but from my point of view, one of the main things and the key things that we have power to change quite easily is to recognise it as external structures and symptoms that have come about because we over-rely on and overvalue the mind, and under-rely on and undervalue the heart. And I'm always very, very clear to let you know that I don't mean that the mind is, a load of rubbish and we need to just forget about it and not listen to it or anything like that. It's actually just a rebalancing. So the mind is valuable, it has value, it has purpose, it has reason, it is divine, and it is helpful, of course. I'd be stuck without one. So, but then it has its limits, and what we've been doing is ignoring those limits and over relying on it in terms of creation, which is why we've then created this mess of a world that we're currently all living in, and that we're in the throes of it, kind of all the kind of like the shadow of what's been created is coming to light to be healed, just to return to the light, basically. And one of the ways that we can speed that up ourselves is by uniting the mind and the heart, but we need them to be balanced. And in order to do that, because we've all over-relied on and overvalued our mind, we need to sort of come back to the heart a bit more. So today's series is about allowing the heart to be the guide. And it sounds dead simple, doesn't it? Allow the heart to be the guide. Oh yeah, okay, then I will. But it's actually not that simple because of all the beliefs and the programming in our mind, and because our mind has been overly in control for a long time. So there is actually a process with allowing your heart to be the guide, and it takes time and a bit of conscious effort, like most things, and consistency before it becomes the norm in your life. So I'm on that path, and I'm kind of in the process of doing that. So when I'm doing these videos, I'm always honest about where I'm at. I'm not sitting here preaching and teaching because I'm not really at that level yet. Okay, and maybe I never will be in this life. It might be another life, whatever. So these videos are intended to just be where I'm at. Okay, so I'm going to sort of talk about what's been helpful to me, to help me to live with my heart as a guide. And like I say, I'm still in the process of that, so I'm not suggesting that I'm an expert, but just that I do have some valuable insights and offerings around it. And that's what these are, just offerings. Okay, so first things first, and I know I reiterate this a lot, but it is key, and it is the foundation of all healing, really. If you are in stressful situations, stressful environments, unsafe situations, unsafe environments, I'm talking really with reference to abuse, but also just if you're in a situation that really is, unpleasant for yourself, that you can get out of. I know sometimes there's some situations, most of the time we can get out of them, but it will be inconvenient, right? If it's inconvenient, I don't care, you still need to get out of it. But if it's, one that you really can't get out of, I'm not talking about those situations. I'm talking about ones that can be changed, whether you like it or not. Yeah, they're the ones that I'm talking about. So if you've got any kind of stressful jobs, maybe you're living in a stressful place, or maybe your life is just stressful for another reason, in order for your heart to open and be the guide, it is preferable to have a safe and quiet, consistently safe and quiet space. It's just helpful because the heart needs to know that it can trust you. So if you're keeping it in an unsafe environment, it can't trust you. So, of course, it's not going to open, and therefore it's not going to give you insights, and it's not going to lead. It won't do that. So in order for it to open, it needs that kind of, needs you to use your mind, funnily enough, to have the presence of awareness to realise what is stopping it from opening. And anything that's unsafe, stressful, unkind, harsh, anything like that, anything that's very distracted from it, like away from it, all those kind of things stop it from opening and stop it from guiding. So that is the key foundation to this, really. So that's the first thing. If you're in those difficult circumstances, you need to change them if you can. If you can't, then you might find that you won't be able to let your heart guide until you're in a safer environment. Now, once you've kind of let it guide in a safe environment, you will find in environments that are unsafe, it can still be a guide. But what I've always found, for me anyway, is that it needs the safety first before it can do that. So that's the key. Okay. So then the other thing is understanding. Sorry, Pepper's loving this. Sorry. So the other thing is you need to understand the role of the mind, because then you can understand its limits. So the mind is here to comprehend, to learn, to remember things, and to give us feedback around those things. And it's also there for the things that I spoke about in the first two videos, so like logic, reason, goal setting and achieving, all those kind of like very masculine things. The mind is masculine, so it's all those very sort of masculine things that the mind is here to do. Its limits are it can only remember and learn things from this lifetime, and it's not particularly discerning. So a good example is me. So I had an awful lot of abuse. I've had basically 40 odd years of abuse before you see me here today. I've had like 40 odd years of abuse. So my mind is very has learnt a lot about abuse, and is very geared up to watching out for abuse. But it can also sometimes project onto situations and people abuse when it actually isn't abuse, because that's what it knows. Okay, so that's a limit that it's got. And we all have these limits, and they tend to be hidden from us because we're so used to our mind telling us what's what. And as I say, we've learned to over-rely on it and overvalue it. So we tend to take what the mind sees and believes and thinks to be, number one and totally true, and it's not necessarily. The soul, your inner wise being, knows everything from every lifetime and is plugged into the source of all things. So it has a different perspective because of that. to the mind. So if you sort of think about the mind is quite small and limited like that, although it's brilliant, it is quite small and limited, whereas the soul, which is the heart, is the portal to the soul. So that is connected to everything. Yeah, so the whole of humanity, the whole of the earth, to all lifetimes, past, present, future. And so when you even think about that, you can think about the wisdom of that is greater than the wisdom of the mind. And that's not to say that the mind isn't wise, the mind is wise, but it is limited. And that's really the first thing that you need to just kind of recognise, is that it has its limits, and that actually we shouldn't over rely on it because of those limits. So that's the first thing for actually working with your mind and your heart. Okay. The next thing is you need to learn to actually listen to your heart, which we've all been taught not to do. You know, we've been taught, particularly, I don't know what other places are like. I'm in the UK, and we refer to it as the nanny state, because, you know, we're always being told what to do, what to think, what to believe. There's an awful lot of, you know, very expensive propaganda that goes on with the mainstream media, and with our government services, you know, like, so they're all over Facebook with their messages that they want you to listen to, for example. And it's not to say that those messages are necessarily wrong or even that they're unhelpful. It's just that we've been trained to kind of rely on what our mind sees and what our mind thinks in order to survive and live our lives. There's nothing at all about following your heart. And I'd love this to be in schools. I'd love it to be in schools, like how to follow your heart. It'd just be wonderful, wouldn't it? And because of that, we've just got kind of programmed and set into, you know, lives that are all very similar to each other's. You know, most people work full time, long hours. Most people have some sort of commute to work that adds to those hours. Most people aim, I'm talking about the UK here, by the way, I don't know about other areas. Most people aim to own their own home. Most people aim to have one holiday abroad a year or more if they can. And most people drink too much, and that's kind of the culture here. And you can see that that's very set, and we're all just kind of like copycatting each other. And actually hearts are very unique and very individual, and their wishes are very unique and very individual, and heart's desires aren't based on agendas like achieving and getting. So all those things that I've just mentioned are like the realm of the mind, because they're the realm of the masculine. They're all about getting, obtaining, consuming. And the heart is about giving and receiving, which is a slightly different vibe to getting and obtaining and consuming and wanting, and, you know, it's just got that different frequency. And so if you think about that, then you think about how we're all very distracted in those copycat lives that we've got. You know, how is there any time or space for us to then be listening to the heart? You know, we don't even know how to do it. There's no instruction manual, there's no education around it. So for me personally, I've just found having silence and stillness and no agendas has really helped me. I'm still in training, so like I said, it's still a process for me. So I haven't got this down yet, which is why I'm sharing very honestly, just from the bits that I have come to know. And you know, I mean, some people like things like journaling, because in the process of journaling, you kind of putting down somewhere, taking out of yourself and putting down somewhere the things that block you from knowing your heart's desires, and that can be a lengthy process and takes time and patience, because at first the mind puts up blocks, like little roadblocks, because it's like, oh, hang on a minute, I don't like this, I want to be in charge still. I've been in charge all this time, you can't just demote me. What are you listening to her for? one that knows everything, so you end up in this kind of egoic tug of war. So there's practices that support that kind of help to ease that and kind of help to ease the mind. So one, of course, is meditation. I think that's well known that it's good for calming minds. Not going to meditation with the agenda of shutting your mind up or anything like that, because it'll just fight back stronger, but just with the intention that it's good for the mind and healing and helpful, and almost like kind of cradling it like a baby, like soothing it, basically soothing it, that's the word. You need to soothe it, because if it isn't soothed and it suddenly just doesn't get listened to, like any part of you that doesn't get listened to, starts to shout. Yeah. So, and then you won't be able to hear your heart, because the heart's a much softer, gentler nudge anyway. So, in order to listen to the heart, you need to do things like meditation practice, or just sit in silence, or, maybe go out in nature if you're not the sort of person to do meditation, and just allow the quiet. I recommend you do this on your own, by the way, but if you've got somebody that you're in a very good relationship with, that you can explain what you're doing, that might be supportive. It depends on the person and your situation. But I personally recommend solitude. I don't think you can beat that, really. Go out in nature, go away somewhere, go somewhere different, and your mind gets occupied. It's like, oh, look at this pretty thing. Oh, look at that, And then that, when your mind's occupied, just gives the heart a little chance to creep in. So, and then what you need to be doing is listening to the heart. So the heart, I find anyway, for me, is a much gentler, softer, less insistent, less determined to be right kind of voice. And just like a feeling, like a knowing for me. And now, because I'm a little bit better now at listening to it and being aware of it, I can actually feel it. It just slightly opens. So when we're talking about the heart in that sense, we're talking about the heart chakra, which is in the middle of your chest, about the same level as your actual physical heart. And that kind of opening can just feel like a very soft gentleness. Or if you've ever been in love, you just get like a little feeling of that. And so that's a way of knowing, oh, that's my heart. So what's she saying? What does she want? Where's she leading? And the thing is with the heart wants what the heart wants. And it's not always reasonable. And it's not always practical, okay? So that's when you need to be working with the union of the mind and the heart, and letting the mind discern whether what the heart is wanting is a good idea. It's not always. So let me try and give an example of that. I haven't prepared anything. Oops. Oh, I know, yeah, it's right. Yeah, right. So, if you've been watching a while, or if you know me, you know that I absolutely love cats. I'm completely cat mad. I mean, you will have seen, I've just had one of my little cats here with me. And I really love them, and they're a great comfort, an ally to me on this path, and always have been. And recently, I really like long-haired cats, and even though they're a pain in the butt, because they don't necessarily like to be brushed, and they have to be, but I just really like long-haired cats. I just find them a little bit cuter and a bit more cuddly and things. And I recently was offered to rehome 2 long-haired cats. I love boy cats. I don't know why, I've just got a bit more of a affinity with boy cats. And these were 2 boys, and my heart was like, it was like, whoa, it was like a big portal. And I was like, oh, yeah, God. And And I know that I would be a very, very good cat mummy to them, you know, and they'd be very lucky to be rehomed with me and adopted by me. And my heart was very excited. And, you know, if I'd have just followed my heart, they'd be here now. They'd be in this video. Yeah, and I'd probably quite like it. But my mind is, like, thankfully, stepped in and was like, hold on a minute, Luna. You don't have any money. You've only got a really small place where you live. And you've got two other very sensitive cats. One of them's very high maintenance and very attached to you, and the other one likes her quiet and to be left alone and doesn't want, you know, noise or chaos or anything. And if you get two more cats, there's likely to be noise and chaos, and you're less likely to have time with your high maintenance one that you know, have a very good soul bond with. And they might not get on, and then they'd have to be rehomed again. And you've no space for them, and and on and on and on. You know, I don't really have the practical ability to take them on. My heart has the ability to take them in and love them, but I don't, you know, necessarily have enough money for all the cat litter and cat food and vets and brushes and toys and and all the very special things that all, you know, my other two cats get. And so actually the heart and mind's joint decision then was that the most loving, kind thing I could do is say no. But can you see, if I'd have just followed my heart, like I say, I'd have them now, but I'd also have the problem of how I'm going to feed them and whether they're getting on with my existing colony of cats and so on. And so we have to use discernment, because, you know, sometimes we can't just go after what we want. It's a bit like, I don't know, you may fall in love with somebody, but they're in an existing relationship. Well, you can't chase after that person. You know, you can't pursue them in any way, shape or form. Your heart might want to, but the mind will tell you, well, actually, we don't want to be cruel to another person and, you know, upset their existing relationship, and people are going to get hurt here. So can you see, it's that kind of like union, the discernment of the mind, the guidance of the heart and the discernment of the mind, that create better, more responsible, more accountable choices, more conscious choices in the world. And that is how we heal the patriarchy with love. We're just putting just a little bit more awareness, kindness and compassion into all our thoughts, our actions, and we're doing it in this, you know, this sacred union of the mind and the heart. So I think that's it, and I don't want these videos to be really long, because I know people don't have a lot of time these days. So I think that's enough for this series. I'm not sure what part 4 is going to be. It hasn't come to me yet, and I will let my heart be the guide. So let it be a nice surprise, and I'll be back next week with part 4, whatever it is, the mysterious part 4 of Healing the Patriarchy with Love. Please do ask me questions, write comments, share your stories, particularly stories of living from the heart. I really like those. Oh, and also I did want to mention that I am going to be putting together a podcast for Healing the Patriarchy with Love. So if you have followed your heart in some way in the world, kind of bucking the trend and the norm and the copycat life that I just talked about earlier, then perhaps you would like to come on and talk to us all about that. And if you would, please get in touch, because I'd love to get to speak to you, and I'm really interested and really curious about other people's lives and how they're healing the patriarchy with love, because I know there are people doing that, whether they realise it or not. And so I want to bring more of that into the world and more awareness around that and more ideas and inspiration around it. So I thought it would be great to involve other people and see what they're doing. So if that interests you, please get in touch and let me know, and I'll be very happy to get to speak to you and to share you on this Healing the Patriarchy with Love. Okay, so my Facebook page again is facebook.com/Luna Louise Anna. I'd love to see you over there. My YouTube is the same, it's Luna Louise Anna. So it depends which platform you're watching this on, wherever you might want to join. Please do subscribe to get to know about this first. You get notifications and things, and some of mine I only submit to subscribers and don't submit to anybody else. Unlisted ones. So if you want to be privy to that, get over to YouTube and subscribe. Okay, lots of love, darlings. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Bye.